everyone. This is Dana. For most of you, this is probably the first time that you're ever going to watch me or hear me talk. For your information, this series is all about working from home and life's lessons. So for the past 5 days, I've been talking about how it is to work at home and what are the lessons from life that we learn out of this whole experience. Now, today I decided to veer away from the topic of discussing the different points of working from home, although somehow this is still connected. This is still very much related to what we are discussing because we're still working from home. The only difference probably is that this is more of life's lesson than the process of going through working from home. And I decided it this way because for the past few days that I've not been online to talk about the process of being at home working, I've been dealing with some anxieties. I've been dealing with a lot of agitation as to the reality that we are now facing. Don't get me wrong, I'm still doing my project, I'm still doing my job, but I just wasn't very visible because there are a lot of things that I have to sort out for myself because before I started talking to you guys again. Now, if this is going to be the first time that you're ever going to be watching me, you have to know that every session that I talk about things, I make acronyms for it. For the past few days, it's only the first day, which was working from home and life's lessons, and the topic was discovering yourself. That was the only time that I did not have an acronym. Truth be told, this is already the 6th day, and my plan was to talk about motivation this time because I feel that after we discover ourselves, we plan what we have to do, we take action, and we invest on the time that we're going to be working from home, and we also try to develop some sort of self-control, we need to be able to stay motivated. And this is also the reason why I have not done this for the past 3 days, because I was starting to lose my motivation. I was starting to question if I can do this job, or I started to question if I still have it in me to accomplish my task. But mind you, I'm still doing it. I have not already stopped from doing it. I just wasn't here to talk about it. But anyway, so to veer away from the discussion, we're going to talk about this whole situation that we're now in, this pandemic that we are all going through right now in a more holistic manner, meaning it's going to be all about what we are feeling and how we should be able to respond to this kind of crisis. So just so that we can still go through the acronym and we will be guided as to what we're going to be discussing, I came up with an acronym that I call humanity. Because the truth is, the whole of humanity is experiencing this crisis, and we cannot help but feel some sort of worry. We cannot help but feel so much anxiety as to how we're going to face this, as to how this whole crisis will end, if it ever will end, and how do we go about in dealing with what we have right now. You know what's scary about this situation is that unlike our regular enemies where we see what we have to contend with, we know what we have to deal with. So somehow we could anticipate what we're going to have to do, but this time is different. We're facing a nemesis that we don't see. We're dealing with something that is far from our imagination before. We thought this would not happen. There had been a lot of people who have warned us about this, but we probably did not believe it, or maybe we were just not ready for it. Just a disclaimer, I am not here to talk about this because I want you, or even me, to be more scared. This is not about me telling you what to do, but this is just my take about this whole situation. And I hope that whatever it is that I'm going to be talking about today will somehow help all of us to cope with this crisis. So again, the acronym that we're going to talk about, we're going to use as a guide, will be called humanity. So let's begin with the first letter, which is the letter H. So H means healing. We have been hearing for the past few days that song about heal the world and heal our land. And it's really true in our time now that we need to know how we will be healing from this situation. Now, what do we need to heal? Of course, physically we need to heal those people who are going through this disease, who are now confined in hospitals and maybe in their homes, who are quarantined right now, and who are experiencing a lot of doubt and a lot of fear in themselves, knowing that there had already been people who have sacrificed their lives because of this disease. So we pray that they will find healing. We pray that they will get cured. Because especially for most of us, the praying for them is probably the only thing that we can do for them. We are not doctors, we're not medical professionals, and the only way that we can help them is to pray for them. So we pray for their healing. But you see, when we say healing, it's not just about physical healing. It's not about just healing a disease or healing a physical wound. We have to also be able to heal ourselves from our pain, internal pain, those things that we hurt the most. Those times when we feel anguish and hatred and envy, or we feel betrayed, we feel taken for granted. Those are things that also need to go through a healing process. And as of this moment, as we are going through this pandemic, we also need to heal ourselves of the mistakes that we've done, the bad decisions that we have made, the ill feelings that we have towards other people, whether it's going to be our family, our friends, the people that we care about. We need to be able to heal ourselves. Because it's only when we do that can we be made whole again. It's only when we heal ourselves of our personal grudges and our hurts do we really get free from hurting, from having all this pain. So my prayer is that that includes me, we start healing from whatever wounds that we might have, healing from a breakup, a healing from a divorce, healing from breaking apart from your friends, healing from the past, because it stays there once we cannot heal ourselves from the hurts that continuously bleed in us. We can never really be free. It's the same kind of healing that we ask our Lord, that He heal us from the pain that we're experiencing right now, and from the pain that some of us might be feeling, especially if we have lost a loved one. So we need to be able to heal to be free. The next one that we're going to be talking about is the letter U, which means understanding. You've got a lot of countries in the world. Ironically, even as we are human beings, we have so many conflicts going on. I know that we are all different people with different cultures, different background, religion, different personal beliefs, different ways at which we would like to live our lives. But if truth be told, although we may have a lot of differences as human beings, if we're going to count the differences versus the similarities, the commonalities that we have, you realize that we have more similarities than differences. I mean, we breathe the same air, we have the same body parts, sometimes we like the same songs, we love the same people, we love our families, we make decisions that are almost the same with each one of us. So there's a lot of commonality. But then again, most of the time, we choose to look at our differences, we choose to look at our conflicts because it seems easier that way. It seems easier to be trying to look at the differences, trying to see what we don't agree on. It seems easier to look at everything from the context of why don't I like her or him, or what is it that we don't agree about? Why are we not understanding each other? It's easier that way than to look at our similarities, than to look at the things that were the same. And it's probably human nature, but you see, that's the whole reason why we have wars. That's the whole reason why we fight against each other. We battle against each other because we choose to look the other way. We choose to misunderstand each other rather than settle our differences. I think for the most part, this whole situation points us to the direction of trying to understand what's really happening. It makes us realize that yes, we might have a lot of differences. There are a lot of things that we don't agree on. But it doesn't mean that just because we're different, it doesn't mean we cannot live together. So my take on this is that let's try to be more understanding of each other. Let's try to look at the things that we agree on rather than the things that we don't. Let's try to settle our conflicts in a manner where both of us will win, rather than just settle it by going to war and trying to create a bigger conflict. As an English teacher, I always tell my students that, when you discuss about language is not about grammar. I say that when we want to communicate, it's all about understanding. It's not about how good you are with the language, but it is with just understanding each other. As long as you understand each other, there is communication. And it's the same thing with the situation that we are now in. If you want to be able to make this whole scenario bearable for all of us, we want to make it easier for each one of us. We should try to be more understanding of each other. Only then do we make that initiative to talk to each other and be able to solve this problem that we are now facing. So I hope that we try to foster more understanding towards each other. The next one is letter M, which is measure. We probably have to ask ourselves, how do we measure who we are? How do we measure our success? How do we measure happiness? This is something which is a cliche that I made up only. I always tell my students and my friends that, in my opinion, there's only two ways rather to measure success. I say that for me, success is measured only by two things: by the strength of your character and by the goodness of your heart. Now, I ask you the same question now. How do you measure your success? How do you measure who you are? How do you measure happiness again? Do you measure your happiness, your success by looking at how beautiful you are, looking at what you have accomplished, looking at what you have in the bank? Because to me, the true measure of success is not all about money. It's not all about all the degrees you've earned in school. It's not about your educational background. It's not even how much money you have in the bank or how many luxury cars you have. For me, success is measured, and even happiness is measured by how good a person you have become after the things that you have accomplished. So again, look inside yourself. Let's all try to look inside ourselves and see, how do I measure who I am right now? What is my gauge to say that I'm truly happy? For the past few days, I've been hearing a lot of people saying that we only need to survive right now. And the material things do not matter as much anymore. It doesn't mean that, some things are not so important. Some things we can live without. We're human beings, so we have needs. And we have to help out each other, especially when this pandemic goes away. But what I'm trying to say here is this whole pandemic that we have gone through and we're still going through right now taught us a lot of things. One of them is to be able to see what truly matters in life. What really are the important things in life? Is it the way you look? Is it how much you have in your brain? Is it your signature clothes and shoes, bags? Or is it your family? Is it the time that you spend with them? Is it the time that You enjoy being around your friends, your loved ones. What is most essential? What is it that you cannot live without? I'm sure you would agree with me that we can always do away with having a very luxurious bag, and we can always do away with the most expensive things in life. But the things that truly matter to us are those that we were born with, those things that we did not have to acquire, those things that had been in our midst even before we started earning and having all these things that we now have. So this time gives us this opportunity to measure who we truly are. So think about that. Think about what is most significant for you. Think about what is most important for you at this time of crisis. Letter A is acceptance. Now, truth is, one of the reasons why I came up with this discussion is because of the fact that for the past few days, when I was out not doing this, as I said earlier, there were moments when I was feeling agitated. I was losing my focus and my motivation. So I was kind of questioning myself as to how am I going to go about this. And then it was probably Tuesday when I came across with this video about coming from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he was talking about trying to change our personality, trying to change our outlook in life so that we could eventually go beyond or come across from that discouragement, that lack of focus and motivation that we're feeling. Just last night, as I was trying to record myself before I talked to you, I watched a film, and it's called Leap Year. It's all about a woman that had this belief. This is a tradition coming from Ireland. She's an American, and her father taught her about this tradition of the Irish. Women, every leap year, this is where the women, I'm not really sure if it's ever true, are allowed to marry and propose to the man that they love every 4 years, because it's leap year. Of course, at the end of it, it did not happen the way she planned. So yeah, it is a good movie, so you might want to watch it. When I was watching it, it gave me that realization. For instance, about traveling. About 3/4 of the movie was shot in Ireland. It's a very beautiful country. And as I was watching it, I was quite sad because for a fact that I like to travel, but somehow with the situation that we are now in, I realize that I probably will not be able to do that anymore. There will come a time when I would probably realize that it's not anymore so feasible to travel. Maybe in a few years, maybe next year will be a good time, but only when we have discovered a vaccine, only if we have discovered a cure for this disease. But if if we're going to really analyze it, it's not as if I'm going to die if I'm not going to be able to travel. I mean, I'd like to travel, but it's not something that would make me give up my life. I could discover other hobbies or other interests apart from traveling. But at the same time, it made me realize that that's how it is now in this situation. There are a lot of things that we'd like to do before that we can no longer do, or it will take a long time before we can actually do them again. Yesterday, I left the house because I needed to buy some things, things to eat. That's basically just it. Some things to eat, sorry. And it's been 3 weeks since I last left the house. So when I was given the chance, I gave that chance to myself anyway. I was feeling so amused about the things that I saw yesterday. It's not as if I've never seen those things before, but because I voluntarily locked myself in the house for 3 weeks. Coming out again made me feel like everything was new to me. I was so amazed with the things that I see. I was amazed with the trees. I was amazed with the people I saw. I was amazed with the road and the very few vehicles that I saw. And the people I conversed with yesterday was such a feeling of amazement. And I was thinking, how long are we going to have this? How long are we going to be so amused with those few times that we are allowed to go out? I mean, there are a lot of things that we can no longer do. And just like what I said, this is acceptance. We need to be able to accept the fact that this is our new reality. Some people would say that it's our new normal. I guess it's true in some ways, but what really saddens me is the idea that we probably will never be going back to normal again. This is our new reality. We can't be so complacent as we were before. Before you can go out anytime and you won't be worried about a person coughing at you or sneezing at you. But now we always have to be on the lookout. Because we have to protect ourselves. We have to be safe all the time. And it's crazy sometimes. It's insane at times when we're so careful now. But if there's anything that, the whole situation has taught us, it taught us to be healthier, make ourselves safer. So it's a good thing. But again, there has to be that acceptance that we can no longer go back to how we were used to before, even if they discover the vaccine for this, even if there's a cure. We will never be the same people again. We will never feel so safe again. We will always be on the lookout. We will always try to protect ourselves from whatever we feel will harm us. These are the moments that you feel sad. I can no longer do the things that I was used to doing. We can no longer enjoy the things that we enjoyed before. So it's a sad reality. But it also comes with acceptance that maybe things will no longer go back to normal. But my hope and my prayer is that even if things will not go back to how they used to be, maybe we should pray that things will be a lot better. There is still hope that we might not be the same person again, but maybe we should be a different person, maybe we could be someone better. This is the hope that we have right now. That we will surpass this. We have to accept that this is our reality, but we will be able to accept the situation because that's the only choice that we've got right now. But as I said, hopefully this will make our lives better than how it used to be. The letter N is narrative. This is our story now. In about 3-5 years, maybe 2 years, maybe next year, we will be able to discover, some people will be able to discover a cure for this disease. But when that time comes, we should be able to look back and tell this story to the next generation. They probably won't believe it, or maybe they will still go through the same things that we're going through right now. But this is a story that we have learned so much lessons from. But this is not necessarily something that we'd like to remember. We're also used to hearing and watching about fairy tales that always has a happy ever after. Hopefully, this narrative that we have, this story that we're going through right now, will end very, very soon. And the ending that we are all praying for will be a happy ever after. It's not going to be a sad story, but hopefully this is going to be a happy one. The letter I is identity. So as we go through this crisis that we are now going through, we hope that we closely reflect in ourselves and try to see and ask ourselves who we truly are. Who are you now during this pandemic? What have you become? And who do you hope to become after this? Are you a stronger person now, or are you feeling weaker now? What are the things that you have learned out from this? What did you discover for yourself? And what do you hope to develop within yourself? The next time this happens, if ever this is going to happen again, or hopefully this ends now, we would be able to realize that we have been a changed person after this. She is being thankful. So for obvious reasons, we are all alive right now. We are still breathing and we are still living. So we have to be thankful that the time that we are given. We have to be thankful for the things that we still have. Not just material wealth, but also the fact that we still have our families with us. We still have our friends. We still have the people who care for us. Now, this is also my dilemma for the past few days, because of course a lot of people, my family, my friends know this, that since my parents passed on, it was quite difficult to be able to tend to fend for my personal needs, because it's just me. But then again, as the years go by, I realize that there's really no one else that I will be depending on except myself. But of course, there were moments when I miss going out. You see, apart from being at home, most of the time I get to converse with people, I get to interact with people only when I go to the office, only when I go to work and talk to my students, my coworkers, and my friends, if I have the time to go out. So that's the only time that I get to talk to a live person. And coming into the situation that we are now in, somehow it gave me that worry. So started asking, is this the kind of life that I will now be living? I seldom talk to people. I don't have people to talk with most of the time. But you see, it's something I've adjusted to. I know that there will come a time when I would be facing my students once again, not necessarily face to face, but maybe online. And that's good enough for me. But I could feel the same feelings that a lot of people have, where you seem to lost that interaction with others because we have to be locked up in our homes. We do not see our friends and our family as much anymore, and somehow it affects the way we think. It affects our mental behavior. So it's really true when they say that this pandemic is not just about losing a job, or not about being afraid that we might not be able to provide for the needs of our family, even our personal needs, but also it's all about having to deal with our mental issues now. We're not used to being inside our homes. We're not used to being locked up. We're so used to being, well, people are social beings. We're not so used to this kind of setup, but we have to be confined because we need to be secure. We need to keep ourselves safe. So it also prompts us to think about the way we think. It also prompts us to also take care of our mental health, because we might just lose it. If we're not used to not talking to people, we might just go crazy about it. But so if there's anybody of you who has friends at home or relatives, try to find time to reach out to them, because you'll never know what they're going through. You might be all happy and about, you might be good at, dealing with this kind of situation, but other people aren't. So try to be considerate, try to be more helpful to people who might be going through this crisis in a different manner. But again, as I said earlier, since we still have the luxury to talk to each other even online, since we still have food to put on the table, we still have medicines to use in time of need, we have to be thankful, because we're still surviving. Thankful to God for all His providence, for providing for our needs, and still giving us, that opportunity to see the sunshine every morning. But at the same time, we have to be reflective of the fact that not everybody has the same luxury as we do. There are people, especially the frontliners and their families, who do not have this chance that we have to be with our families. Some people who have unfortunately passed on, who can no longer be with their loved ones, and those people who are grieving for them. Some people who have lost their lives, who did not have a choice but to just leave without a warning, to leave without seeing their family, saying goodbye to them. Apart from that, there are people who have also lost their jobs. Those people who are now very anxious, who are lost and who do not know what to do because they don't have anything to provide for their families. So we have to keep on praying for them. There's roughly 2 million people who have more or less 2 million people who have lost their jobs because of this pandemic, because of our situation right now. So we have to try and help out as much as we can, or if we can't, if we do not have the means to help, then at least we can just pray for those people. But for now, as long as you are still surviving, then you should be more thankful. Other people do not have the same luxuries as you do. Now the last one, the letter Y, is all about you. After this whole situation, what has become of you? We now realize that life is no longer just about us. It's not just about you or me anymore. It's not about what you want, what you need, what you like to do, what are your interests, what makes you happy. It's not just about you anymore. It's all about us now. We have to be able to look after each other, think of each other's welfare, think of what will make each one of us cope with the situation. What would make things better for all of us? It's not about just you anymore. I'm not saying that it's wrong to just think of yourself first. You know what they say, charity begins at home. But if anything, we have to realize that we should go outside of ourselves and try as much as we can to help those people who are in dire need of our help. It's easy enough for me to say that, but it's really true. You can't be the same person who will just think of yourself now. You would have to always think and pray for others as well, because that's how it is. We are in this together because we have to learn a lesson that life isn't just about us. Life isn't just about what we think for ourselves, what we want for ourselves, but rather life is all about trying to give help to whoever needs it. So I hope that this whole crisis will make us think not so much about ourselves alone, but it will help us think of everybody as a whole. Now, you might think, you might be, in the dark as to what exactly I want to say after everything that has been said. But the real reason why I even put this out is because of the fact that just like you, I'm also worried. Just like you, I also have my doubts. I also have my fears about this whole situation. But in the same light, I put this out there because I wanted to tell people that we're human beings. The whole acronym says it all. This is humanity. We have gone through so much battles in our lives. We have gone through so many diseases in our lives. Humanity is far greater than this disease. Humanity is far bigger than this whole pandemic that we're going through, and we can triumph. We can win this battle if only we will start acting as one. If only we will try to be less selfish and be more selfless. If only we do not allow greed to come between us helping each other. If only we're not going to just fend for ourselves. This is the lesson that life and God is teaching us now. That we have to be able to work together, go hand in hand together and embrace each other and say, we're not going to fight this battle on our own. We're going to fight this battle together. And that's only possible if we're going to be more considerate about other people. That's only possible if we come as one, as God's children, as people who lives the same lives. As I said earlier, we may be different in a lot of ways, but we have more similarities than we think we do. So it's high time for us to try to diminish or try to lessen that selfishness, but more so be more aware of the fact that we are not living just for ourselves alone. If only humanity will choose to be more dependent on each other, will choose to come together for the greater good of everybody, then we will have a better world. As I said, this whole crisis do not necessarily have to crush us as people. We are far bigger than this. So let's not surrender to something which we do not see. Let us surrender to the fact that there is hope for all of us. We may not have the same lives before, and hopefully, I pray that we will not have the same lives anymore, that we will no longer go back to normal. But instead, we will go back to we will go into a better life. We will make ourselves better. It might not be a new normal, but it might be a reality that's far greater, far better than what we have now. This is my prayer. If someday that day will come when we will all rise above this, we will be able to face ourselves physically. We will be able to join hands again physically and say to each other that we triumphed again. We have triumphed and we are victorious against this nemesis. As we reflect on ourselves, as we go through our daily lives, let us think about what we can do to help each other. Let's think about what we can contribute to the world. Let's think about forgiving each other. Let's think about doing away with all the hatred and all the selfishness and all the greediness. Let's think about being God's children who love and care for each other. And maybe, just maybe, if this is the way we think and this is how we will do things, if we come together as one, then maybe we will really see that day when we will all be safe and we will all be happy. This is my prayer. This is my hope. This is what I envision us to be. A new humanity, a new world, a new life, and a new hope. Thank you everybody, and God bless all of you.